Arkansas right now is ranked as the most pro-life state in the nation. A poll just came out that shows Arkansas is the only state in the nation with a pro-life number high enough that it's outside the margin of error in the polling. That didn't just happen by accident.
God is the author of life. Satan wants to kill, steal, and destroy. And how the abortion movement went from so large, it took churches, it took pregnancy centers, and it took legislatures all together as a team to get it to where it is today.
It's amazing to us, I think, as we look back on the history of Caring Hearts and the years that God has given to us here.
As a Christian, I always wanted to do something to serve my Lord. He calls us to witness for Him in whatever job we have. And Caring Hearts was a place where the harvest was ripe.
I'm Jerry Cox. I'm Executive Director of Family Council, and we are a conservative organization based here in Little Rock, Arkansas. My involvement in the pro-life movement really occurred along about 1983 or 84. There was a pastor of New Life Christian Fellowship here in Little Rock. His name was John Rowe. He began to preach on abortion. He got a video called The Silent Scream, and it was a video of an ultrasound of an abortion. And he showed that to us in church. And boy, it just pierced my heart. In 1984, two friends of mine, Rob Schaefer and Leon Holmes, both attorneys, wrote a constitutional amendment that did two things. It prevented the public funding of abortion in Arkansas, and it said the policy of Arkansas would be to protect the unborn child as much as the federal Constitution allows. So in order to bring that to a vote, petitions had to be circulated statewide, and if enough signatures were gathered, then it would go on the ballot. Well, I ended up going to work for that effort. We got it on the ballot. 2 weeks before the election, the Supreme Court removed it from the ballot, and we were just crushed. And that was my launch personally into the pro-life world. 1986, we got it on the ballot, and we got beat. We lost by about 500 votes. And people said, stop beating the dead horse. You fought the good fight. No need to keep trying. But I remember Kevin McRae on our board at that time said, no, I think we need to try again. And we did. And that was for the 1988 election. We gathered signatures. We got it on the ballot. And lo and behold, that year, the people of Arkansas voted for Amendment 65, which became Amendment 68. It passed that year in 1988. Guess who I was going to church with at that time? A young couple by the name of Scott and Kathy Archer.
We were attending the church we went to back then, and a friend of ours who initially started the ministry, Diana Henderson, just stood up and said she was starting this crisis pregnancy center and wanted women to pray about being involved. And I just knew immediately that that was something God was calling me to.
Well, they started out walking the sidewalks of where Planned Parenthood is, and the owner of the shopping mall said, what can I do to get you off from walking the sidewalk?
I love that.
And so he offered them a building, and that's how they set up the pregnancy center.
Our first center was located on Asher Street, right next door to an abortion clinic. Naturally, we had the same hours, so we got a variety of clients coming and going. We would have some clients that had intended to go to the abortion center but would come into our door first because we were first. So we would get to minister and meet the needs of a lot of those women, and they would never go next door. We were kind of like a skeleton staff.
What they would do is they would leave a crack in the door so they could hear girls coming down the sidewalk, and then they would go out and talk to them and offer them services.
In the early days, as a volunteer, before we did ultrasounds, I mean, you did the pregnancy tests, You counseled with the young ladies, our clients, and we encouraged them to have their babies. At the end of the day, we emptied the trash and cleaned the bathrooms. Those were the early days.
We had basically no consistent money coming in, so I remember we would get our monthly bills and we would put them on the desk. And we all would just pray over the bills and just ask God to bring the money in so we could keep our lights on. And He did. It was amazing.
In the United States, there were over 1 million abortions per year at that time, and that momentum didn't seem to be decreasing any. There was a definite need, not only for ministries like we have here, but also for there to be a fight in Congress, in our legislatures. I mean, that was obviously a need.
I really felt the need to launch Family Council at that time. And one of the very first things I did, I went to the state capitol. We drafted a bill. It said that you had to have parental notification before an abortion could be performed. In 1989, there was no requirement for parental consent. So you had 14-year-olds getting abortions in Arkansas, and parents didn't even know about it. We were able to pass a law that said the parents at least had to be notified. And guess what? Governor Clinton signed it into law.
Jerry Cox and his wife Doris, what those two have done in the Arkansas legislature, I believe has done more for the pro-life movement than any other legislator, any other governor, anybody else could have done. They've worked tirelessly to get pro-life legislation passed.
If Pastor John Rowe had not been courageous and stood up and talked about abortion, I don't know if Family Council would even exist. We were all in that same little church, and we were all just trying to raise families and do what God had led us to do. But now I see the fruit of it. Never despise the day of small things, because we were just a little bitty church, but God was at work.